This episode of Reasonably Spontaneous Conversation is brought to you in part by Clay Boykin Life and Business Coaching, because we all get stuck at times. For more information, visit clayboykin.com. By Janelli Bean, for fun and engaging children's books with cute and colorful characters. For more information, visit janellibean.com. And by Wise Owl Organizing, simply set up for you. Organizing consulting and clarity coaching, virtual or in person. For more information, visit wiseowlorganizing.com.
Hello world, it's me, Dennis, and today I have Noémi Beres of Podcast Connections on. Hello, Noémi.
Hello, Dennis. Thank you for having me today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Please tell me, in Podcast Connections, tell me about the history of it, how you decided from Cyprus to decide to have a global connection to be able to get people who want to be on podcasts to people who have podcasts and bring them together. What was the germ of the idea, and how did you and Gabor do that?
Actually, we were always in the global business world,
Yes.
to be honest. We started our own online travel-related business back in 2007, and we lived back in Ireland. So it's a bit like more northern part of Europe.
Yes.
So we lived there, and I told Gabor that I want to be an entrepreneur. And we came across this business model, this online travel related business model, and we really liked it. So we started working in it back in 2007. So it was kind of a global business all the time, and we really enjoyed it. And yeah, it was great. And I was kind of a content creator for this business, kind of a travel writer, I have to. And so we enjoyed that until COVID hit us in 2020. And, we were told, and the world told us that it's going to be 2 weeks and everything's going to be fine. And the travel business is going to go back. And
no worries. Don't worry about it. It will be fine.
It will be fine. And we're just stopping for 2 weeks and everything's going to be fine. But unfortunately, that wasn't true. So we had to figure out something because obviously the travel business world collapsed. And thankfully, and the universe, was working with us. And my husband had a mentor called Stephen from Ireland, who was in this big podcasting business and big podcasting world way before us. And he told us that, why don't you start something in podcasting? Because this is the future. And people are now, are at home and there's lockdown and everything. And, podcasting is going to be so popular in the coming years. And, why not? I mean, this is great. And
it is. We've gotten past 2 million podcasters. Now you have a number that are continuing to do, but still, it is a way of connecting people in a different aspect that really gets a chance to get into the individual choices and interests of the human being.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the best part of it, that, we're connecting people, we're sharing knowledge, and we're still in Cyprus, Europe, and we're connecting people in the US, in Canada, in Taiwan, in, Singapore, wherever you are in the world, you can still, work with us and we can work with you and be connected. Yeah.
So how did you go about it? How did you go? All right. So you have this idea, and you have this idea. How do you go about building it?
Well, I mean, we already had some kind of experience in marketing, in online marketing, and in e-commerce. We had kind of e-commerce ventures as well before. So yeah, it was a good starting point. So we started to look for e-commerce experts in the online marketing world, but we were focusing on female entrepreneurs and female e-commerce experts because, yes, I know, I know you support the female aspect of the business.
It is one of my, my core beliefs is that we're over masculine and under feminine in our leadership roles in government and in business, and that the only way we're going to balance out the planet is to be able to bring more women into the decision-making space in our businesses, in our government, in our NGOs. So now, anyway, continue.
I agree with you 100%.
Enough. Dennis gets off his soapbox and goes back to Noemi, and please continue.
Yeah. So we realized that podcasts need to hear their voices, the female voices, because the e-commerce world is pretty male orientated until up today. And that's why we thought, they need to go on podcast. They need to hear their voices. And we only started just working with female entrepreneurs, female e-com experts. But like step by step, obviously we had started to build up our business, and obviously we work with male clients as well. I mean, we're not like only focused on female voices, but that was the most important part. That's how we started. That's how we, began the business. Yeah.
So tell me your business model. So now Podcast Connections, you have two ends of it. You have people who want to be on podcasts, and then you also have podcasters like myself who are looking for prime guests to be able to serve our audiences. So now, how do you reach us both?
That's correct. I mean, now that we are, we have a network of podcasts and hosts, it's much more easier because we have referrals and, word of mouth and, many hosts who actually work with us. We referred someone to them, like a client, like a, guest expert. And they asked us like, oh, I really like your, client, and, she or he was great on the show. And would you want to work with me? Because I love to be on podcasts too. So actually we have a lot of clients who are hosts as well, who wants to be on shows, who wants to be on other people's podcasts because they want to, promote their podcasts. So that's how it's connecting. But we also help obviously hosts to get clients and get speakers and guests on their shows. So yeah, it's both ways. It works both ways perfectly.
It is, it's an extraordinary time in being able to get people to connect. So are most of your clients, are they already in commerce? Are they looking to get their message out? So you have your client base as your prime client base, people who are looking to like a PR agency where you are going about and connecting with with podcast hosts and saying, oh, I have a terrific guest for you. How are the ways that you work on a day-to-day basis?
Exactly like a PR agency. It just, working in the podcast world, or, we are into summits as well. So if our client want to be on a summit, we can organize that too, or an Insta Live, Facebook Live. So it's not only just solely focused on podcasts, but that's our main core, like part of the business. And, I always tell people, when I ask this question, it's like, podcast hosts are human, we are all human. So we just get in touch with them. And my main space is LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn, and I think it's working really well for us. And, if I want to get to know someone, I'm just saying hello to them. I'm introducing myself, and, I'm listening to their podcast, a couple of episodes, and I tell them what I think about their podcast. And we're just getting connected. We start to network. And that's how we start build relationship with anyone in the podcasting world.
Oh, so where do you want to grow this? How are you connecting with other, not just the podcasters, but the world and the audience as well? So you're beginning, you're part of a podcasting group. You invited me to a wonderful meeting the other day. So there are nodes that are beginning to be able to bring podcasters together to be able to share best practices and the thing. Are you part of that process too, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. We're open to anything. I mean, if you have a great networking opportunity, for example, with Cami, you were in the group, and yeah, we just, she started her podcast when we started our business, and we got to know each other at that time. And since then we are working very well together, and like we work with other hosts as well, and I know about their families, when their son getting married, when are they on holiday, and what's their favorite book. And it's just this relationship with people, and yeah, that's only networking and getting to know each other. Yeah.
What are the challenges of you're in Cyprus, which is in the eastern in Central Europe,
Eastern time. It's like
Right.
Eastern
Right.
Europe.
Eastern Europe time. So what the challenges of working in a global world when you've got people in Singapore, people in the United States and that, how are you dealing with that?
It's so cool because we are way ahead of you, like in time. So when my clients are sleeping, in Florida or California or in New York or anywhere in the world, we're already like, organizing their interviews. So by the time they wake up, they have their podcast interviews ready. So we are ahead of you in time. Of course, if you're in Asia, that's a bit better because we are closer to each other in time. But it works perfectly. I mean, obviously, when I'm having like podcast guesting or interviews, I have to stay up stay up a bit later and doing my interviews, but that's part of the business, I mean, we are in Europe, so we can't do anything about the time zones and time differences. So we have to be flexible about it. But yeah.
Are most of the podcasters or a large portion of them in the United States or in there, or is this a global? Where is your primary client base?
US and Canada, I mean, mostly. We also work with a couple of hosts from New Zealand or Australia, but the time differences are really big between like Europe, US, so it can be tricky with them, but mainly US, Canada, yeah. And some UK hosts as well, not too many.
Right. And all right. So now what makes a great, one of the things that I love about what you do is that when I got a chance to get contacted about a particular client that had one of your representatives reached out to me and said, hey, I have, and they had already built, here are the reasons why this would make a good guest. And you have your questions to be able to help to seed the podcaster, no matter what level of expertise that particular podcaster does. That requires a lot of research on your part.
Exactly. I mean, I would say like 50% of our work is research. I mean, that's why we have our, assistant representatives to work with us, because it involves a lot of research. We have to go deep in the podcasting world and know which podcast, what niche are in it, because that's the most important thing when you have a guest. I always tell to my clients, and I always tell on podcast interviews as well, that doing podcast guesting, and it's not about the numbers and episodes and downloads. Of course it is, it's important, but the most important part is your niche. I mean, as long as you have your niche and you are in your niche and you're talking to your people, to your audience, it doesn't really matter if it's a big podcast, smaller, mid-sized. Just talk to your people and your niche. It doesn't mean anything.
I'm so glad to hear you say that, because I was thinking about the model of, let's say that Ferrari wants to advertise in the New York Times. Well, they are only looking for 2 or 3 people for that ad in the New York Times. So that if you get your client base, your particular ones that are really interested, your raving fans, you can really develop your podcast that way.
Absolutely. That's all about it. Plus, the other thing that when you, like a couple of clients of ours, they just start podcast guesting. Not everybody is a pro who works with us, and we always tell them, is someone told me the other day that podcast guesting is like you're going to the gym. It's like you're not going to develop muscles in 2 days or like 2 weeks. I mean, you need to go to the gym, persistently, consistently, for weeks, for months, until you get stronger and your muscles build up. It's the same with podcast guesting. You're not going to be famous, and you're not going to have like a big fortune after one interviews. And unfortunately, we had that experience too with a couple of people who started with us, and after one interview, they told me this, like, okay, so I'm going to stop now, and I'm going to see the results. So what's going to happen? It's like, obviously, there's nothing's going to happen after one interview. You have to do it constantly and persistently. It's not about it's not about one day wonder or anything like that. You're not going to be famous in a day or two. It takes time.
No. And if you look at, and one of the things that I love about reading biographies is that it says exactly that, Noemi. It says, persistence, persistence, persistence. That is the only way. You talk about any of the great writers, and you see that they paper their walls with the rejection slips, where we have to keep going at it, because you never know when you reach that tipping point. But getting the practice to be able to get on the podcast, to be able to get into the art of conversation, to be able to go back. I mean, I notice you. I mean, you speak in really strong sound bites. You have worked to be able to, you get a small sound bite, and then you go on and you pass it back to the host. Do you talk to the podcast guests about things like that, to be able to get them to be a good conversationalist on a podcast?
Yeah. We, if somebody needs help with it or inexperienced in podcast guesting, we always have, tips and tricks that we can help them, and to start with podcast guesting, even if they're not so sure about their topics, talking points when they start the guesting, we also help them to develop those topics. And that's the same with our existing clients as well. If topics, talking points change, and we help to develop those and maybe lift them to a different level, and help them with our expertise, and because we know what the hosts want and what the podcasters want. So yeah, we helped them to sell them to them with great topics, and yeah.
How have you built relationships with the hosts and build them so that you are someone that, like you have with me, you reached out to me, we kept connected. You said, here's the possibility of a host, and a possibility of a guest for you to be able to have, and here. So you have now developed a rapport with me. So now whenever I get an email from you, I go, oh, well, here's someone that I want to really take a look at to see whether or not they want to work with me. So that's the kind of thing that you begin working with other podcast hosts.
Exactly. It's like building trust. It's so important, and they know you. And plus, if you work with reliable people and great experts who are really experts in their field, it's awesome. And they know that if I send them, it's just not about like I'm obnoxious or something like that. But if I send them, they know they're good, because we only work with the people we like to work with, and we know they are good at what they're doing. So it's important that they're really experts in their field and they are top notch. So we can work together, and I can stand for them and see, this is a great expert and she knows what she talks about. So yeah, we can tell that. And I had a great experience with hosts, and they told me, it's like, I never read any emails from agents because they're just flooding me with emails and different. But if I get one from you, I always read it. It's like, thank you. That was the biggest appreciation I got. So
thank you, and I echo that. Anytime I see you in the subject line, I know that's something that I want to be able to pay attention to. So where are you taking Podcast Connections in this next year? How do you laying out your plans and how you want to continue to grow?
I mean, we're doing what we're doing, persistently and consistently. And we're still a boutique agency. So we don't want to serve 100 clients, and we're not going to aim like, we don't want to be the top kings of queens, whatever, of the podcast world. But we would like to offer extra services for our clients. And that's what we're working on as well. Plus, it's also in the plans to probably have some kind of training for people who wants to start podcast guesting, so we can share our expertise with them. But it's not near future. That's
Absolutely
later, probably. Yeah.
So what is your life like away from Podcast Connections? Tell me about Cyprus, and tell me about how life is there, and give me some background, because I'm here in the United States, I'm here in Texas, and so I want to know more. Tell me through your eyes.
I mean, Cyprus is a beautiful place in the Mediterranean. It's a holiday destination. It's kind of a holiday island. Now it's changing its character because of the COVID and everything. The whole world stopped, and Cyprus stopped because it relies on the travel industry and on travelers. But now it's changing a bit. So there's getting more like tech people and tech companies coming to this small island. So the world is changing, but we are still a tiny island here in Europe. And everybody thinks we are part of either Turkey or Greece, but it's not. Cyprus is like it's an own entity. It's independent, and they speak Greek, and and life is kind of relaxed here. But obviously, when you have to pay your bills, your rent, and everything, you still have to work for it. And some people misunderstand it because they think they are on a holiday when they live here, and they think it's everything brilliant, and our money is gonna be enough forever, and it's like a dream. Yeah, and after 6 months, they moving back to their home countries because life is not a holiday here either. You have to work for your money, and you have to do. And you are probably the luckiest person if you have your own business and to run your own business, and you're not working in the catering, travel industry, in hotels, because that's hard work here as well to serve people and to work for holiday makers.
Sure. What is the internet infrastructure in Cyprus? Is it good and solid? I mean, are you able to get good solid internet? Because that's the thing that I'm thinking of. I mean, wherever we're going to move, wherever Melissa and I are going to move in our lives, I know that I can go anywhere in the world as long as I have a good solid internet connection.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, after Ireland, it was like, it's a huge shock because that was like 10, 11 years ago, we moved from Ireland to Cyprus. And this is a huge step back, like backwards, because this infrastructure and, the speed of the internet and the quality of the internet just wasn't there. But in the last 10 years, it's changed a lot. So it was a huge change. So now we can work easily. I mean, we always had our online business, 10 years ago as well. Sometimes we had trouble with the internet speed, but now we're getting there. We're getting there. We have more internet providers, not only one or two. So we're getting there, and it's changed a lot. And especially since COVID hit us, our clients and friends in the US, they were laughing at us because we told them, like e-commerce and like ordering food online and shopping online just started 2 years ago in Cyprus. I mean, I'm from Hungary, and the infrastructure is much better there. You can order something, you get it the next day. In Cyprus, this is a different world. But since COVID, everything's sped up, and now we can order stuff online and order from e-commerce companies. Okay, Amazon orders arrive in like month time or two, but that's a different story. But yeah, it changed a lot.
But that's only now. But you see
That's
how much
now.
you see how quickly it's changing, because the world.
Yeah.
It feels to me, Noemi, that there is the world is changing faster than it ever has in the history of mankind and humankind. We're seeing a speed up. And it's certainly allowing us to adapt, and it's sometimes very hard for us to be able to turn off so that we can rest and recharge. So what do you all do to rest and recharge? What is a recharging time for you and Gabor?
I mean, we go to the beach, and that's a great place to recharge.
It's a beach. It's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. We just live about 10 minutes from the beach by car. So it's great to just, get out there. In the summer, you can go swimming. In the winter, you can walk and, hike. There are a couple of mountains here. We can get snow in the winter, so you can go up there. You can even ski in Cyprus. So you can ski on the same day. You can go for a ski in the mountains and go for a swim in the Mediterranean part of the country. So it's pretty cool. You can do that too.
How lovely. What a lovely idea. I mean, you're continuing to open up my mind and our own heart. Well, is there anything we haven't talked about, Noemi, that you want to make sure that we talk about today?
The other thing I wanted to mention that you just asked me about how we relax and stuff. Like, for example,
Yes.
I always tell everyone that I'm a part-time artist, like I'm a weekend artist, because I make collages on canvas, and that's how I, use my creative part of my brain and relax and release stress. So that's what I do in the evenings, and that's what I do during the weekends when I have time. And one day, hopefully, I have my own exhibition of these canvases and collages. Yeah.
How lovely. And that's the way to recharge. And all right. Well, Thank you, Noemi. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to be able to get to know you and know more about Podcast Connections. And all of the information is on the podcast. It'll be here on the links. And I'll get an opportunity to be looking forward to those emails from Noemi that I can make sure, and Podcast Connections that I can make sure and follow up on, so that I can continue to populate my reasonably spontaneous conversations with the wonderful guests that you match up. You're a matchmaker, a yenta, that make sure that we'll match you up with someone that can really make you shine.
Yes, thank you for your kind words, Dennis. Absolutely, it's my pleasure, and I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. All right. It's Podcast Connections. Please make sure and click on the link, and we will see all of you next time.
This episode of Reasonably Spontaneous Conversations has been brought to you in part by In Search of the New Compassionate Male. For more information, go to newcompassionatemale.com.